year 109 AD, the Emperor of Rome announced a celebration. It lasted for 123 days. For 4 straight months, the citizens of Rome were given everything they could ever want: free bread, endless wine, and the most spectacular, violent entertainment the world had ever seen inside the Colosseum. The people cheered. They celebrated in the streets. They thought they were living in the absolute golden age of human history. But they weren't. Behind the walls of the arena, the empire was bleeding. The treasury was being drained. The currency was being debased. The borders were fracturing. The emperor didn't give them a 123-day party to celebrate their greatness. He gave them a party to blind them. It was a psychological weapon, a calculated distraction designed to ensure that while the political elites emptied the vault, the citizens wouldn't even look up to notice. The Romans had a name for this specific formula of control. They called it bread and circuses. Right now, you are living inside the exact same blueprint. The Colosseum hasn't disappeared. It has simply moved into your pocket. The infinite scroll of your smartphone, the endless streaming platforms, the celebrity gossip, and the government stimulus checks. These are not just modern conveniences, they are modern sedatives. You are being entertained into submission, while the middle class is systematically wiped out by inflation and debt. This is how an empire dies, not with a scream, but with a distraction. Welcome to the Matrix. To understand the trap you are in today, you have to look at the man who first identified the blueprint. History is a cold, heartless machine. It does not care about our modern technology, our politics, or our arrogance. It only cares about human nature. And human nature never changes. Around the year 100 AD, a Roman poet named Juvenal looked at his fellow citizens and felt a deep, overwhelming disgust. He remembered the stories of the old Roman Republic, a time when Roman citizens were fierce, independent, and deeply involved in their government. They voted, they debated, they farmed their own land, they fought in the legions, they held the power of the state in their own hands. But as Rome expanded into a massive empire, unthinkable wealth flowed into the capital. The political elite, the senators and the emperors realized a terrifying truth. A strong, independent, and educated middle class is a direct threat to absolute power. If you want to rule without opposition, you have to break the independence of the citizen. But you cannot do it with swords. If you use the military against your own people, you create martyrs, you spark a revolution. To achieve total control, you have to make the citizens surrender their power voluntarily. Juvenal watched this psychological warfare play out in real time. He wrote with bitter sarcasm that the Roman people, who once commanded armies, elected consuls, and ruled the known world, had surrendered all their duties, all their freedoms, and all their ambitions for just 2 things: panem et circenses, bread and circuses. The politicians had discovered the ultimate hack for human psychology. They realized you didn't need to govern well to stay in power. You didn't need to balance the budget. You didn't need to secure the borders. You just needed to throw cheap wheat to the mob and distract them with bloody games in the arena. The citizens willingly traded their sovereignty for a full stomach and a front-row seat to the spectacle. They stopped caring about the blatant corruption in the Senate. They stopped caring about the slow debasement of the silver denarius. They only cared about which chariot team would win the race on Tuesday. This was the death of the Republic. It wasn't murdered by foreign barbarians. It committed suicide. The people traded their civic duty for state-sponsored comfort. Look around you today. Do you see a society of independent citizens fiercely guarding their liberties? Or do you see a society that will accept any level of corruption, any level of inflation, and any loss of freedom as long as the Wi-Fi is fast, the streaming services work, and the government keeps sending the checks? The blueprint hasn't changed in 2,000 years. Only the delivery system has.
The first half of the control matrix is the bread. In ancient Rome, this was called the cura annone, the grain dole. It started as a noble idea, a temporary emergency measure to provide a little bit of free wheat for the poorest citizens during a financial crisis. But if history teaches us one thing, it is that temporary government programs never end, they only grow. By the time of the emperors, over 200,000 citizens in Rome were receiving free grain, olive oil, and eventually pork every single day. At first glance, this sounds like a utopia, a benevolent government taking care of its people. But the economic reality was a nightmare. By handing out free grain, the Roman government completely destroyed the free market. The independent middle-class farmers outside the city could not compete with free. They went bankrupt. They lost their ancestral lands to wealthy elites and massive corporate plantations. With their farms gone, these former middle-class citizens fled into the city of Rome. They arrived unemployed with no relevant skills for city life and immediately joined the line for the free grain. The system literally created the very poverty it claimed to solve. But the economic destruction wasn't even the worst part. It was the psychological destruction. When a man relies on his own labor to eat, he is free. He can disagree with the emperor. He can vote against the Senate. But when a man relies on the state to eat, he is a hostage. He will never vote against the people feeding him. He will never question the system because the system is his life support. Welcome to the modern subsidy trap. In 2026, we don't hand out sacks of wheat in the town square. We use SNAP benefits, EBT cards, corporate bailouts, universal basic income experiments, and stimulus checks. During the global crisis of 2020, the governments of the world executed the largest cura annone in human history. They shut down the global economy, destroyed millions of small independent businesses, and handed the citizens paper checks to stay home and stay quiet. The middle class cheered. They thought it was free money. They didn't realize they were being bought. Just like the independent Roman farmers, the modern middle-class business owners were wiped out, while mega-corporations were allowed to stay open and absorb all the wealth. The bread is not a gift, it is a leash. When the government subsidizes housing, housing prices explode. When the government subsidizes college, tuition explodes. When the government hands out trillions in stimulus checks, inflation explodes. The middle class is squeezed from every side until they simply throw up their hands, give up their independence, and say the government has to fix this. That is exactly where the elites want you, dependent, waiting for the next handout, a permanent renter class that owns nothing and relies entirely on the state for survival. But a population of dependent, struggling people is a powder keg. If they sit in silence and think about how they lost their businesses, their homes, and their purchasing power, they will get angry. They will realize the math is rigged. They will start asking dangerous questions. And that is exactly why the emperor cannot just give them bread. He must also give them the circus.
In Rome, the Colosseum was a masterpiece of social engineering. It could hold 50,000 screaming people. The games were designed to be as shocking, violent, and sensory overloading as possible. The goal was to exhaust the nervous system of the crowd. When they left the arena, they were physically drained and psychologically sedated. They had no energy left to care about the collapse of their empire. But the Roman Colosseum had a fatal limitation. You actually had to walk there. You had to leave your house. The distraction was only temporary. Today, the architects of the Matrix have solved that problem. The modern circus does not require a stadium. It lives in your pocket. It sits in your living room. It follows you into your bed. We are living under the algorithm of apathy. Think about platforms like TikTok, Instagram Reels, or YouTube Shorts. They are not designed to educate you. They are not even designed to entertain you. They are designed to hijack your dopamine receptors. Every time you swipe, your brain gets a microscopic hit of dopamine. It is the exact same neurological mechanism as a slot machine. You are pulling the lever over and over again, searching for the next hit. The algorithm tracks how long your eyes linger on a screen. It knows your fears, desires, and insecurities better than your own family does. In the age of decadence, we are drowning in information, but starving for truth. The mainstream news media operates on the exact same blueprint. It is a 24-hour circus of manufactured outrage. They show you celebrity trials and political scandals. They tell you to hate your neighbor because they voted for the wrong party. They create endless culture wars over definitions, statues, and pronouns. This is not journalism. This is the gladiator match. While you were screaming at a screen about a politician's tweet, massive corporations like BlackRock are buying up the single-family homes in your neighborhood. While you were binge-watching a true crime documentary, the Federal Reserve is quietly printing another $1 trillion, stealing the purchasing power of your savings. The circus is a magician's trick. The magician waves his left hand with bright flashing lights so you don't look at his right hand while he picks your pocket. The ultimate goal of the modern circus is to create apathy. Apathy is the feeling that nothing matters, that the system is too big to change, and that it is easier to just disengage and consume. When a society is apathetic, the elites have achieved total victory. They don't have to send the police to silence you. You have silenced yourself. You have voluntarily traded your awareness for comfort. You have traded your future for a 15-second video. The Roman emperors spent fortunes importing lions from Africa to keep the people distracted. Today, the tech monopolies do it for free, and you pay them with your attention. But the Matrix goes even deeper. To truly prevent a revolution, you cannot just distract the masses. You have to specifically target the one demographic that possesses the energy to overthrow a corrupt system. You have to sedate the strong.
Why does this formula work so perfectly? Why has it successfully pacified populations for thousands of years, regardless of culture, religion, or geography? Because it does not target your intellect, it targets your biology. The human brain is a survival machine. For millions of years, our ancestors lived in a state of constant scarcity. Finding food was a struggle. Finding safety was a struggle. Achieving status required immense physical and mental effort. Because of this, our brains are hardwired to follow the path of least resistance. We are biologically programmed to seek out high-calorie food and low-effort dopamine. The bread and circuses matrix hacks this primitive code. It gives your brain exactly what it is wired to seek without requiring any of the discipline, sacrifice, or struggle that traditionally produced it. But to truly secure an empire, the elites must solve a very specific problem: the strong. Throughout history, revolutions are not started by the elderly or the comfortable. They are started by young, energetic citizens who feel they have no stake in the system. If the strong and ambitious are deprived of a future, they will burn down the palace. They will fight the king's guards. So how do you stop them? You don't use military force. That is expensive and creates martyrs. Instead, you sedate them. You hijack their biological drive to conquer, to build, and to protect, and you redirect it into a digital simulation. In ancient Rome, the young men who should have been guarding the borders or holding the Senate accountable were instead violently obsessed with chariot racing factions, the blues and the greens. They poured their tribal energy and aggression into a game that didn't matter. Today, we have perfected this sedation. The modern Matrix offers a hyper-realistic simulation of achievement. Video games provide the illusion of conquering territory and leveling up. Artificial digital relationships provide the illusion of intimacy. Social media arguments provide the illusion of fighting a righteous war. The biological alarm system is completely turned off. A citizen can sit in a dark room, completely broke, with no property and no realistic path to retirement, yet his brain is flooded with the neurochemicals of a victorious emperor. His mind tells him, you have calories, you have safety, you have stimulation, you have conquered. There is no danger here. This is the most terrifying aspect of the Matrix. It doesn't just steal your money, it steals your ambition. It takes the very fire that could be used to build a better life or hold a corrupt system accountable and extinguishes it with a flood of cheap, artificial pleasure. When the strong are sedated, the empire can do whatever it wants. There is a terrifying phenomenon that happens at the very end of an empire's life cycle. The louder the cheering in the arena, the faster the walls are crumbling outside. In the late stages of the Roman Empire, as the treasury ran dry and barbarian tribes pushed against the weakened borders, the games in the capital did not stop. In fact, they grew more extravagant. They had to. The level of the distraction had to perfectly match the severity of the crisis. The emperors knew that if the noise of the circus ever stopped, the citizens would hear the sound of the approaching collapse. Today, we are living through the exact same phenomenon. We are experiencing the invisible collapse. Unlike a Hollywood movie, an empire does not collapse in a single day with a dramatic explosion. It rots from the inside out. And because the decline is gradual, and because we are completely sedated by the algorithm, we don't even realize the ground is disappearing beneath our feet. We are told by politicians and financial experts that everything is fine. They point to the stock market hitting all-time highs. They point to consumer spending. But this is the edge of reality. It is a mathematical hallucination. The stock market is not hitting all-time highs because the economy is producing more value. It is hitting all-time highs because the currency it is measured in is dying. It simply takes more worthless dollars to buy the exact same share of a company. Look away from the digital screen and look at the physical reality of the year 2026. The United States national debt is accelerating past $35 trillion. The interest payments on that debt alone have surpassed the entire budget of the United States military. We are now borrowing trillions of dollars just to pay the interest on the money we already borrowed. This is a terminal debt spiral. There is no political solution to this equation. While the citizens argue over viral videos and celebrity politics, the physical infrastructure of the nation is crumbling. The cost of basic groceries, energy, and housing doubles. The middle class, the engine that actually built the empire, is quietly being erased. It is being replaced by a society of mega-wealthy asset owners and a massive underclass of dependent renters. The bread and circuses are not a sign of a wealthy society. They are a painkiller. They are administered to a dying patient so they don't feel the pain of the internal organ failure. But painkillers do not cure the disease. They only buy time. And here is the fatal flaw in the Roman blueprint. The emperor can provide the circus for free, but he still has to buy the bread. And when the treasury is finally empty, the state only has one option left to keep the illusion going. They must destroy the money itself.
Rome did not die in a single day. It died because its citizens chose the comfort of the circus over the harsh reality of their collapsing world. They kept their eyes glued to the arena while their empire burned to the ground. You are now standing at the exact same crossroads. The algorithm will try to pull you back in. Tomorrow there will be a new celebrity scandal, a new political outrage, a new viral video designed to spike your dopamine and make you forget everything you just heard in this video. The system wants you asleep. It needs you to be apathetic because a sedated citizen is a compliant citizen. But you have a choice. You can unplug from the matrix. You can refuse the cheap dopamine. You can start building real skills, acquiring real assets, and preparing your mind for the storm that is already here. Because the bread and circuses are running out of funding. To keep the illusion alive, the empire is currently executing the final, most desperate maneuver in the Roman playbook. They cannot raise taxes and they cannot cut spending, so they are destroying the very concept of money. They are inflating away the national debt by secretly stealing the purchasing power of your life savings. If you want to know exactly how this financial endgame plays out, and more importantly, the exact historical timeline we are currently following, you need to watch this video next, The 7 Stages of Empire Collapse, Why America is at Stage 6.
It breaks down the precise mathematical cycle of how superpowers die and exactly how you can survive the transition. I have linked it right here on the screen, and I will also leave it in the pinned comment below. The illusion is breaking. The clock is ticking. Click the video on your screen, and I will see you there.